Hello and welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment on this video. Let's get into the video. Are you aware about the resolution which was just passed? Well, they are calling it House Resolution 888. This is a bill that the United States Representatives passed in Congress, where they're saying that if you condemn Israel, then you are anti-Semitic. In short, this resolution makes critiquing of Israel anti-Semitic. It affirms the state of Israel's right to exist. It recognizes that denying Israel's right to exist is a form of anti-Semitism, rejects calls for Israel's destruction, and the list goes on. But not to worry, because we are going to look at all that in these videos that I have compiled for you as different people talk about this resolution. As if that is not enough, guys, you're not going to believe how many people said yes to this resolution. 412 House of Representatives voted yes. Now, unlike focusing on the people of Gaza who don't have food, clean water, homes, and so many things, this is what these representatives are focusing on right now. Check out these videos for more context. I will be right back. And when I do, we go deep into talking about this.
The House of Representatives has just voted to make any critiquing of Israel anti-Semitic. So if you are not alarmed or you think your representatives represent you, wake up. Now, the resolution is specifically called House Resolution 888. So number one, this resolution affirms the state of Israel's right to exist. Number two, it recognizes that denying Israel's right to exist is a form of anti-Semitism. Number three, rejects calls for Israel's destruction and the elimination of the only Jewish state. And four, condemns the Hamas-led terrorist attack on Israel. You guys, 412 House of Representatives voted yes. Representative Mike Lawler, a New York Republican who introduced the resolution, is quoted saying, "I'm proud that 210 Republicans and 202 Democrats set aside our differences and came together to show support for our closest ally in the Middle East." This passage of the resolution also comes as Congress is working to pass an aid package to Israel and after censuring the only Palestinian American Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib.
Yesterday, the House passed a resolution called 888. And basically, the resolution is saying that Israel has the right to exist. The Palestinian resistance should be condemned. All kinds of things against the Palestinian people. And the voting, guys, 421 people said yes to the resolution. And only one white man said no. He rejects the resolution. And guess what? The squad, they betrayed us too. Guys, let me show you. You see the squad? AOC? These three? They also voted yes. They're supposed to be on our side. They're supposed to reject that vote. They're supposed to reject this resolution. They said yes to the resolution. Let me show you what the resolution also says. Let's get into the resolution. It claims that anti-Zionism is equivalent to anti-Semitism, which is a lie. Claims broadly that all Jewish people, regardless of nationality, are indigenous to the land of Palestine. What? Huh? It goes on, and it says, what's it called? It rejects calls for the establishment of Palestinian sovereignty over the land, condemns the Palestinian resistance. What? Are these people like Chris? And the squad, they voted yes, and only one guy said no. Only one man said no. So these people are always in our faces like, oh yes, we are for the Palestinians, but they're voting and the way their actions never speaks with what they say. They're always going against the Palestinians, and it's so disappointing. But anyways, this is what's going on. Israel is trying to buy all these politicians and get them on their side. They probably gave them money to agree to this voting, or they threatened them somehow. I don't know what it is, but this is crazy. This is crazy. But that's not gonna stop us. We are still gonna free Palestine. Period.
We need to talk about the bill that the United States Representatives just passed last night in Congress. They voted 412 to 1 that Israel has a right to exist, and anyone who denies that right to exist is anti-Semitic. Rashida Tlaib voted present, which I'm assuming is because she's been censured on the Senate floor, so she was probably unable to vote, I think at least. Ilhan Omar voted yes. AOC voted yes. Ayanna Pressley voted yes. So we're seeing 3 out of the 4 members of the, the squad voting yes. saying that being against Israel is anti-Semitic. While 15,000 people in Gaza have killed, and it's estimated that it's way higher than that, this is what we're focusing on. Yep. This is what the representatives are focusing on. Our representatives that we voted for are focusing on. While Palestinians in Gaza don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have their homes, they don't even have access to medical care. And this is what we're voting on. Sweet. And what's crazy about this whole thing to me is, again, how, you know, they're conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, is when you have Jewish people all over this country that are protesting in the name of Palestine, that are saying, not in our name, not a genocide in our name. They are calling for a ceasefire. They're saying, we don't stand with Israel. Israel does not represent us. So when is the US Congress going to actually start listening to, I don't know, the people that live here? Quick question.
Instead of representing the 66% of American voters that agree that we should have a complete ceasefire, our House of Representatives have decided to enact House Resolution 888. It is a legislation that reaffirms the state of Izzy's right to exist. And not only that, but it recognizes that denying Izzy's right to exist is a form of anti-Semitism. It rejects calls for Izzy's destruction and the elimination of the only Jewish state, and it condemns the Hamas-led terrorist attack on Izzy. And the vote was nearly unanimous. It was 412 to 1. Instead of trying to come up with plans for a complete ceasefire, that is what they've decided to spend their time on. The House of Representatives, the people that Americans voted in to represent the American people. It is absolutely ridiculous where these people's priorities stand. Keep calling your reps for a complete ceasefire. Keep calling them for the liberation of Palestine. Keep calling them to end the occupation.
Did you see that the House voted on Resolution 888, which reaffirms the state of Israel's right to exist? This is ridiculous. Israel exists. It's existing. We very much see it existing. It passed 412 to 1. The one person to vote against it is a Republican. I can't believe I'm agreeing with a Republican, which says that he voted no because the resolution equates anti-Zionism, which is what we're criticizing here, with anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is deplorable, but expanding it to include criticism of Israel is not helpful. And that is what we're criticizing, Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. Now, Representative Cori Bush did not vote, and Representative Rashida Tlaib voted present, saying what needed to be said, that both Israelis and Palestinians have the right to live with democracy, safety, peace, and human dignity, and that the resolution ignores the existence of the Palestinian people. On top of this, there are also states that will punish you if you try and boycott Israel or condemn what they're doing. In the United States, supporting Palestinian rights is considered anti-Semitic because Israel wants it this way. This is an absolutely unnecessary resolution. Where is the help? Where is the resolution for the Palestinian people? Even though there's a truce going on, there is still Palestinian people being killed. This is ridiculous. And even though our leaders won't say this, this is why we're still saying free Palestine.
House Resolution 888. 2-page document, very simple read. You can screenshot it if you'd like to. Page 2. Now, in this resolution, and a resolution, by the way, is not a bill, so it's not a law. It's not a law for you and I. It may be some sort of vague attempt at producing one in the future. Let's get into this. Why do you need to affirm the right of Israel to exist when it does exist? It has a state. Also, we've all been referring to this as Zionism, but regular Zionism is just saying, hey, we need a place to be, right? This is extreme Zionism that we're all experiencing and witnessing, right? I think we should separate the two of them. Again, a resolution is just the body that's making it, declaring its viewpoint, right? It stands on a matter. Now, I personally, and I think a lot of people think, the development of Israel was very poorly done and it was not a good idea at all, especially in the way that it was executed. If you get upset with me for saying that, think about Liberia. A bunch of strange slave owners took a bunch of former slaves back to Africa, put them there, and said, here's some guns. This is where you live now. Terrible, atrocious idea, having similar results. This kind of conversation about Israel having the right to exist when it already does is just strange, almost uncanny. Okay, so now that I've said all that, let's look at one of the parts of this, right? It says, recognizes that denying Israel's right to exist is a form of anti-Semitism. No, it's not. Can it be? Absolutely. In my case right now, it is not. This seems to me like a sort of gaslighty way to pretend that the rest of the world hates Israel, not for what it's doing now, but just because we're anti-Semitic. Simply declaring this doesn't make it true. Simply declaring that Israel isn't racist, another thing they did earlier this week or last week, is ridiculous because there's no way that you could possibly substantiate that.
I mean, you can't substantiate someone not being racist at all. There's no way of even being able to do that. Even me, there's no one on this planet who can say they're definitely not racist.
House Resolution 888 reaffirms the State of Israel's right to exist. It recognizes that denying Israel's right to exist is a form of anti-Semitism. It rejects calls for Israel's destruction and elimination for the only Jewish state, and condemns the Hamas-led terrorist attack on Israel. They're wasting our time. They're absolutely wasting our time and theirs. And if this is what they came up with after everything that has happened over the last 60, 50 days, talk about inefficient, ineffective, incapable. If you can't get Israel to act right, just say that. Y'all trying to pass laws to make them feel good. We don't feel good about them. Period. Do something else. Do something that works.
What is going on? What am I hearing? They passed a resolution to equate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism in like an overwhelming majority. What are you talking? I don't even know if I'm alive anymore. Like at this point, like this has to be a simulation. Like this cannot be real. Like I looked up House Resolution 888 because that's what it's called. What's going on? House Resolution 888. Number 1, reaffirms the State of Israel's right to exist. Number 2, recognizes that denying Israel's right to exist is a form of anti-Semitism. Rejects calls for Israel's destruction and elimination of the only Jewish state, and condemns the Hamas-led terrorist attack on Israel. And they think we're really just gonna let this slide. Okay.
I don't think the government realizes how bad they messed up, because at this point, it's not even a talk about what's the lesser of two evils. It's a talk about how do we change the whole system. Like, you really turned a whole generation of people into thinking, all right, let's completely annihilate the system and redo it because it's not working. It's not working. We can see it now. We can see it through these phones. We see it first person. And you think we're just going to stay silent? And we're just going to take it? Well, that's just how it is. No, that's not just how it is. It needs to change. And, you know, even with the GM strike that happened, what if we just all did that? What if every person in a job striked? What are they going to do? They have to change the system. The system doesn't work. Even if you have outliers here or there that aren't going to strike and they'll keep working. Like, you got people that really will bust their ass for companies for 20 years just for the company to not even know their middle name. I mean, the whole system needs to be changed. We need to stop running things that are not businesses like the healthcare system. Yeah, I realize that there are some aspects of it that are a business, but aren't you supposed to be there to help people? Aren't you supposed to be there to save lives? The whole system, it needs to be dismantled. The whole system needs to change, and I really do have hope that that's going to happen in my generation. Free Palestine, as always.
Now, here's a little bit more context into House Resolution 888 and why it's going to be significant and how we can actually see this playing out. So let me tell you, essentially, it reaffirms the State of Israel's right to exist. It recognizes that denying Israel's right to exist is a form of anti-Semitism, rejects calls for Israel's destruction and elimination of the only Jewish state, and the other one is about condemning Hamas and saying that they are a terrorist group. Now, we've already heard how the vote was about 412, meaning many people abstained. Now, there's 412 to 10 vote with the last earlier resolution that's just express support for Israel. There's 435 House of Representatives members in the House, so you can see already that some people had abstained, but particularly, you know, the progressive crew that we all seem to uplift and stuff, love and support, they were part of the no votes last time. Now, we know that with 412 to 1 with Senator Mercy being the only no vote that clearly all of these abstained. The only person who didn't abstain though was House Rep Rashida Tlaib, who has been censored. Now, she was censored through a resolution in the House sponsored by Representative Rich McCormack, and they are censoring her because they perceived that she was promoting false narratives about October 7th, which I believe because we all know by now that that's not true at all. I mean, first of all, there was 1,400 people unalived by Hamas, then it was 1,200 people unalived, and then half of the people were military personnel, and all of a sudden it was, well, there were some civilians, but some civilians actually could have been unalived by the Israeli occupation. Helicopters too. So how many people did Hamas actually unalive or harm? Anyways, they also didn't like the fact that she's from the river to the sea, and they keep deeming it as anti-Semitic, although we know better than that. And she also made comments about US aid and the funding of the Israeli occupation. And because of that, US being responsible and partly to blame for the violence that was occurring, which I believe is something we've all been saying. All of that we've been saying. So she's representing the people, which is exactly what elected officials do. Like, they represent their constituents. So why is she being censored? But there are different forms of reprimanding. You could be reprimanded, you can be censored, you can be expelled from the house, but there's also other things that can happen. You can lose certain privileges, you can be thrown off certain committees, you can receive fines or have to give monetary restitution, you might lose your seniority. So there's other ways in which house members are reprimanded, and usually it's in a very public manner to make sure that there's public shame brought upon you. And I say all this because this is going to be the new lens of which the House of Representatives operate under. When talking about Free Palestine, when talking about what they consider to be the state of Israel. So anyone that is on the House floor that is representing their constituents and what their constituents are saying are going to be deemed anti-Semitic. And we already know that Representative Tlaib has been reprimanded and censored because they stated that her comments were anti-Semitic. So I can only imagine what other punishments are on the way, for the elected officials that are accurately representing their constituents and communities. And if this is the lens of which they're going to start to draft legislation, that's going to be problematic for people, because we too are going to be suppressed in our voices, and our language is also going to be seen as anti-Semitic. And I'm sure they are going to do some type of intangible war on anti-Semitism soon, which would involve things like we're already starting to see a collaboration with law enforcement on college campuses to suppress youth voices when it comes to this, because they do see Gen Z as the most threatening cause to the state of Israel. They see black voices and black youth voices as a threat to the state of Israel, and we've heard Israeli occupation force leaders literally saying that. So again, I think this is significant because it now redefines what anti-Semitism is. I think it's significant because it's not going to allow any of the elected officials that are actually representing us to speak truth to power without being reprimanded, possibly expelled, possibly losing privileges and committee representation. I think that this here is going to guide further legislation around this, including the anti-boycott laws or any type of laws that will exist to fight anti-Semitism. And this will also be kind of the lens which they move when it comes to funding and equipment support, training support, military support, all of the things that we are actively trying to fight against. This will be the lens and the guidance for them to justify in doing it. Super dangerous for a lot of reasons. Now, not only is this horrifying, it should concern you. I'm more interested in the fact that this is almost unanimously passed, and I don't know if you are familiar with United States government or Congress. They absolutely never agree on anything. This was passed and there was one vote no, and that was a Republican from Kentucky. So what does the state of Israel and the Zionist establishment have against everyone in Congress that they unanimously voted on this in favor? They don't agree on anything ever. This is worrisome. Now let's also talk about what a resolution is. A simple resolution is often for matters that affect just one chamber of Congress, often to change the rules of the chamber to see the manner of debate for a related bill or topic. Must be agreed to in the chamber in which it's introduced. It's not voted in the other chamber and does not have a force of law. So it's important to know that this isn't a force of law because the other chamber also isn't voting on it, and then it's marked up, agreed to by both chambers of Congress, and then obviously goes to the president to be enacted into law. That isn't happening. This is just a resolution. However, since the resolution is significant and does kind of set the standard of debate on a topic, it is important. Now, this resolution claims that Jewish people are native to the land of Israel, and the fact that they use violence that is historically happened against Jewish people as the reasoning to why the land of Israel should exist, like a colonial state should exist, is just beyond me. Like acknowledging historical genocide, which literally justifying present day genocide. I don't know what's happening with the progressive crew, but you all please don't think that your seats are going to be secured if you align with the status quo. I guarantee you it will be the opposite. Please don't do it. And this definitely will set up precedents for not only how they debate and talk about this topic on the floor, but this will set up precedents for them to go after and fight anti-Semitism by suppressing everyone's voice that is screaming for a Palestinian liberation. We already know, like, they're trying to do that by working with law enforcement on college campuses. This cannot happen. We've come to the end of the video. Please share your take on this topic. Thank you for watching.